Delight to meet him. Haven't met him before. I had the pleasure. Nels Abbey, the writer and commentator. Thanks so much for coming in. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, Vanessa.
So you are smiling despite everything that's going on today, or maybe because of it. I don't know.
It's the makeup.
What is your take? Really, let's do the speech first, and then let's do the possible inhabitants of the cabinet next. So, the speech that we all listened to agog. What did you reckon? Coming in, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, Vanessa.
So you are smiling despite everything that's going on today, or maybe because of it. I don't know.
It's the makeup.
What is your take? Really, let's do the speech first, and then let's do the possible inhabitants of the cabinet next. So, the speech that we all listened to agog. What did you reckon?
One thing is clear, and that is that Liz Truss is not a silver-tongued devil by any means whatsoever. She doesn't know. We saw the speech yesterday, the victory speech, and now we saw the speech today too. It wasn't something that it's not. Even Johnson wasn't a silver-tongued devil himself, but he knew how to actually muster people
when you
together.
say silver-tongued devil, you could be saying silver-tongued angel. You just mean she's not silver-tongued.
Not silver-tongued, not barrister-like, not somebody who conveys authority, not Vanessa Feltz-like, if you understand what I mean.
What can I say? What can I say?
So she's not really that person who really just knows how to actually how to convey authority through the manner in which she speaks. So it's going to need some polishing that's going to need to be done on that in general.
Sometimes people like it when people don't. For example, you will be absolutely no stranger to the knowledge that the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle's speech last night was roundly criticised by many, in fact vociferously criticised by many, for being too polished, too glib, too eloquent, too elegant, too heartfelt, to the point that people thought it must be insincere, that it was so heartfelt. And loads of people say, well, of course, she's an actress. She's acting. Yes, she does it beautifully. Sure, she delivers emotion, love, respect for her husband. We don't buy any of it. It's much too slick a performance. Now, Liz Truss is not a performer, is she, by any means? Maybe people like that sort of stumbling, faintly shambolic, kind of deadpan, quite dull delivery.
I think you make a good point. I think in terms of the Duchess of Sussex, regardless of which way she presented herself, she would have been on the receiving end of criticism. I don't think she could win either way. But in terms of Liz Truss, if we go back to the debates just a couple of months ago, even go back to the very first debate on Channel 4, she came, as the Jamaicans say, dead last. She was pretty much, in terms of the actual polls, but she's emerged victor. So the actual inability to convey authority or eloquence or to know when to actually pause effectively or how to deliver a punchline isn't really her strong point, but it hasn't held her back.
Exactly. I suppose that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Some people think that denotes sincerity. If you stumble and you bumble and you're kind of not quite... That Hugh Grant thing, I think people like that. It seems more sincere rather than less sincere. We hear from Peter Cardwell that Kwasi Kwarteng has just gone into number 10. We think he's going to be the new Chancellor. We also hear of other appointments. James Cleverly, Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman. And many people are saying, look at this multi-ethnic cabinet. Look at these diverse people from all different backgrounds and countries and origins and ethnicities. This is cause for celebration. Other people are saying, why are you mentioning it at all? If you're colourblind, why have you even noticed? Don't draw attention to it. There's nothing to see here. These are just the best people for the job. Other people are saying many other things. I wonder what you think about this.
So I'll divide them. So normally when we have this debate about diversity in high level politics, which is a very unique thing, we look at two things: substance and symbolism. And the norm is it's a victory for symbolism with a defeat massively on the substance side of things.
And wait, because some people really might not understand that, including me, maybe. Yeah. When you say substance and symbolism, do you mean that these people are symbolic of something, but it doesn't have any substance? They're just symbols of a different ethnicity that doesn't mean anything, or what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, by symbolism, it means that, okay, a glass ceiling has been symbolically smashed. It looks good.
Right.
It looks good. It plays to the idea of equality in Britain and aspiration, how far you could potentially go if you work hard, which to some degree is true. But in terms of actual substance, which is delivering for the population, predominantly the population that these very people have emerged from, even with, and this is not just criticism of the Tories, even going to Barack Obama and the American side of things, it often falls flat. It often doesn't make much of a difference to the actual people, the actual population that these very politicians have emerged from. But I think there's something a bit more complicated going on here.
Can I just say one thing? Sorry. I was broadcasting live on the day that Barack Obama triumphed as President of the United States. And I cannot overstate the emotion in the calls that I took that day, largely from Black or Afro-Caribbean families, primarily in London, but talking about how they had sat up all night with their children, talking about how they would never forget the way they felt that day, talking about the significance and what it meant about aspiration and fulfillment of dreams and how you could become president of the United States, and the depth of it. And I begged to be allowed to report all evening, even though I've been reporting all day, because I said, oh, well, I want to go, I want to stand outside the embassy here, I want to be the person report, and they let me. And I was phoning in these reports and people were crying in the street. I can't emphasise enough how it seemed to matter and to be incredibly significant, and yet you've just cited it as an example of something that seemed an attainment and seemed to open doors to people that didn't.
Well, a little known fact about me is I actually worked at the BBC around the same time as you.
Okay, so you remember it then?
I do remember it, but I remember, but there was another side to it too, which was post-Obama, which was pretty much after the fact, which was after 8 years of a black man nominally the most powerful man on the planet, on the face of the planet. What difference did it actually make? Did Obama deliver, or did he fail to deliver? Was it a victory for symbolism or a victory for substance? Right. And I thought that, okay, let's ask the actual people. And so what we did, we conveyed a debate, and we brought together a room full of black people, most of them professionals and well-educated people or so in the radio theatre in BBC, New Broadcasting House, which you must know very, very well.
Of course I do, yeah.
300 people. We brought the best of intellectual tradition from America, the Caribbean, Britain, you name it, and one side for Obama, one side opposing him. This was the Obama class of people. These were black professionals. They voted that he failed to deliver as far as substance was concerned. But I think that as we take it back, if we bring it back to Britain right now, I think there's several things going on. I would say Kwasi Kwarteng is a great hire. I think Kwasi Kwarteng is a truly brilliant man. I think actually he's the key underpinning intellectual in that cabinet right now. And I put him on one particular side. He's an old school fiscal conservative who would have actually stood the test of quality in any era of British politics whatsoever. And then we've got on the other side, we have pretty much the culture warriors. We've got people such as Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman in particular, who are pretty much full-time rumble and tumblers or so. These are the anti-woke warriors who would just pretty much come along, and they do prove popular. If you take a look at what actually happened during the election, Sajid Javid was clapped out pretty much before he could even get out of the first gear. He didn't get onto the actual ballot. Nadeem Zahawi, as respected as he didn't get on. Kemi Badenoch, no experience, no exposure, no suitability, but she came fourth.
She did. Well, she gave a belting performance, didn't she? She's a terrific speaker. Nels, will you stay with me after the break? Good, because it's great to have you here, and I really am still fathoming the symbolism versus the substance versus the symbolism. If you know exactly what he's talking about or you disagree, get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk to Peter Cardwell again, so he can keep us abreast of the developments which are happening thick and fast. Peter, hi.
Hi, Vanessa. Yes, with
Raab is toast. Grant Shapps is out. Welcome back to Vanessa Feltz on Drive. Boy, has Liz Truss been busy. She's firing left, right and centre. Dominic Raab is toast. Grant Shapps is out the door. All the people who back Rishi, goodbye, sayonara, see you later, thanks a lot. It's a brutal business. And I'm here with Nels. Really great to have you here. What do you make of it? It's cut and thrust, mostly thrust.
It really is. She is not scared of making enemies. She's not scared. She's going to their face and firing them. You are out. That's it. She's gone full Alan Sugar, and that's pretty much, you're sacked. Goodbye.
Full Alan Sugar, beautifully put. What would Alan Sugar say? Probably be deeply affronted. We'll get on the phone in a minute. You know what he's like. He's extremely competent when it comes to this sort of thing. So you were saying, I mean, let's boil it down to, we have a cabinet. It sounds as if in the cabinet we are going to see a really kind of strong mixture of ethnicities and races and backgrounds, countries of origin. And I'm asking you, on balance, is this a good thing or not? Then we get into this deep thesis, don't we, Nels, about symbolism and substance. So I'm going to say what I would say if I was listening to the radio or watching this telly at home. I'd say, is he pleased or not? Does he think it's good or does he not? What do you think about it?
I'm entirely indifferent. I think that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm entirely indifferent. I could not. To put it frank, I could not care less. And because, frankly, I don't. My concern about this is about what is better for the nation and for the people. And if we're talking about ethnic minorities too, what is better for ethnic minorities? Who's the better person for the actual job?
Yeah.
I think Kwasi Kwarteng is good in terms of actually who's out there. I wouldn't. James Cleverly isn't. I don't feel either way about James. I think James has to prove himself a little bit more in terms of where he stands. But in terms of Suella Braverman, Kenny Badenoch, so boy, I think if you speak to most ethnic minorities, you'll probably find that they are not too complimentary. You're not too complimenting of them.
Why?
Because it's how they've they have presented themselves to the world as quote unquote anti-woke warriors, essentially. That's pretty much their brand of politics, the combative anti-wokeness, be it the if you're a gay person or so, if you're an LGBT person, you might have been offended by some of the things that Kemi's done as far as trans rights are concerned, or when you're about to have your speech, you're putting the male and female stuff on the actual toilet, which makes it a bit of a unsafe space for them. If you're black, you're seeing that she backed the Sewell report, which was very offensive.
Which says that there is no institutional racism.
Yeah, the Rwanda plan or so, and all these different things that are just very, very clear that they are red lines to us that just seem as if to ethnic minorities this seems as if no, this is a red line to us. You've crossed that line, and we can't. To
try to make this a bit more understandable,
please.
When Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister, the first female Prime Minister, it was often said of her, she achieved this extraordinary status, this enormous, monumental, breakthrough, and did nothing at all for other women. That's what was said. She didn't reach out a hand and help. She didn't seem to understand or appreciate anybody else's plight. As far as she was concerned, whatever glass ceiling she broke through, she didn't care about anybody else. That's what at least some analysis said about her. In fact, I've never ever heard anyone say anything else. So is that effectively what you're saying about Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch?
My question to you in response would be, did Margaret Thatcher make things worse for women?
I don't know if she made things worse.
Now, that is the fear for the ethnic minorities have, that there's a type of person who comes in and doesn't really do anything. Margaret Thatcher had an all-white male cabinet. That's pretty much that, and she was the only female there. And but in this situation, our concern, our fear is that some of these characters, particularly those who are, their brand is the social conservative anti-wokeism, say what racists occasionally might like to hear in order to accrue popularity, they could potentially make things worse for us, make our lives harder. And that's pretty much the fear. That's why some of them have actually become quite popular in the country, but become quite unpopular with ethnic minorities.
Really, and what about the idea, this Obama factor that you and I both remember reporting on at the time, where, it made it seem possible, when people talk about, their childhood role models, or, how did you get into this business? People ask, well, I saw such and such. And when I saw that they could do it, I thought, well, maybe I could do it. And then I spoke to my teacher and we all looked at this example and we thought, my God, yes, I could make this happen. And that's why I happen to be in this august position now. Is there none of that? If we have... spoke to my teacher and we all looked at this example and we thought, my God, yes, I could make this happen, and that's why I happen to be in this august position now. Is there none of that? If we have Kwasi Kwarteng as Chancellor, it looks as if we might. If we have Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, and it looks as if we're going to, that will send a massive message, a huge and very substantial one, to people from all different backgrounds, saying, look at this. This is amazing. This could be you. It will be you. We often hear about, we need a police force that looks like this country. It needs to look like us, look diverse, look mixed, look, whatever we all are. And that's what we need in the cabinet, and we're going to get it.
Yes and no. I think that because the issue is this, is that, yes, on one hand, it's the symbolism. It's looking up into the star and seeing somebody who looks like you, and you think, okay, I can be in the stars one day too. But if that person is actively using their power and their privilege and their access and everything that's helped them get to where they are to actually clash down on us, to clash down on ethnic minorities, then you wouldn't get that Obama factor in the slightest bit. I'll give you a point. If Barack Obama was some right-wing Republican, there would be no Obama moment. You would have seen African Americans in the streets protesting it as they would have protested, say, a George Bush or anybody else, because they recognise the threat. So the symbolism element of it here isn't the same thing. What people want, what people need. Or let me take it to the base, easiest side of things or so. if somebody stabbed you in the back, you are not going to be worrying about what the colour of the person is who stabbed you in the back. You're also not going to be worried about the colour of the doctor who's removing the knife from your back.
Not, no.
And I think that's pretty much what we have over here, a situation in which the norm is we expect our politicians to be the doctor to remove the knife, the proverbial knife that's in our back, not the one who's going to twist it and turn it a little bit further. And so the fear is with some of them, not all of them, not with Kwasi Kwarteng, we're not saying this the slightest bit. We're talking about Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch. The fear is that they are here to turn and twist the knife a little bit into us, and that's the fear. That's why the popularity is not there.
Do you think that you're unusual in thinking that, or do you think this is a widely held belief?
I'd welcome a poll, but I think it's a very, very. I do. Again, it's just anecdotal. The people I know, and I'm sure you know a gazillion black people too. Ask them.
Well, my other half,
exactly. Ask him. Ask Ben, of course.
Deepest Essex, but of Nigerian origin. And I will certainly ask him.
Because it's what's happened over here is that because the norm is that we're not asked enough questions of ethnic minorities and their feelings in these situations over here. Because if you go to their blogs, if you go to the different Instagram pages that might be popular, and you see the actual response to these things, it quickly emerges. You speak to people at the barbecues, the families, the hall parties, everything else. It quickly emerges that this is not as unusual a thought as is possible. And how could it not be? Because people have eyes and ears and they see what's actually happening. And as a result of what's happening, so they're responding to it effectively. And I do maintain that the Obama moment, as great as it was in America, so if Barack Obama was pretty much any number of if it was Herman Cain or Herschel Walker or so, who's currently running in Georgia, or any number of these people, or Candace Owens or so, you would not see African Americans in the street dancing. African Americans did not get into street dancing when Condoleezza Rice became Secretary of State, or even it's a slightly different thing. It's not so much the party thing. It's about there's a symbolism, and symbolism doesn't put carrots on the table. It doesn't actually feed you. You can't eat symbolism. But the substance really and truly does. Did life really improve? Do you expect life to improve for you as a result of these appointments, or don't you? And the norm is, sadly, in some of these situations, the answer is no, that it could potentially get worse.
I really wonder whether people listening to you now get where you're coming from, understand, maybe feel exactly the same. So all I can do, lovely listener, is ask you, you've listened to Nels Abbey, the writer and commentator, do you agree with what he's saying? 0344 499 1000. Get on the phone, let me know. Nels, it's been great. Thank you so much. We'll be straight back with you.